Hello students, myself Dr. Rashmi Tyagi. I am an educationist and I am a teacher and I am in the field of science, a scientist also. I have done my doctorate in chemistry from IIT Roorkee. Everything is made up of matter in this universe. If you see around in your surroundings, you see different type of things with different shapes, sizes and textures. And in the whole universe, we find so many different things. We have got air, which is in a different form. We cannot see it, but we can feel it. And we have got different types of fruits and crops. Then we see the clouds, we see the stars, and the nature is very beautiful, and the sand is there, and the rocks are there. So, all these things, they are all matter. So, we can also say that anything which occupy space and is having, that means having a volume and a mass, we can call it as matter. From the very beginning, the human beings started looking around and finding out what is there. That was the inquisitiveness of the man. And we have got some history in which in ancient Indian rishis and munis, they were doing, lot of work. The science which is there today and many other things was present in the ancient time also. So, the philosophers in the West, the Greek philosophers, they were also trying to look around and trying to classify so many things around them, and these things we call as matter. Again, I will say anything which occupies some space, has volume, is called as matter. Even the modern day scientists have evolved two types of classification of matter based on their physical properties and chemical properties. Right now, in this context, in this chapter, we shall learn about matter based on physical and chemical properties of matter. First, we will discuss the physical nature of matter. It was really a question that the matter is made up of what? Whether it is made up of particles. So, for a long time, many scientists tried finding out the nature of matter. Some of the scientists, they said that it is continuous, like a block of wood. So, it is contained that way only at one place. Whereas the other thought that matter was made up of particles like sand. So, sand, it is not fixed at one place, while the wood, all the particles or all the piece of wood, it is concentrated at one place. Let us see now to decide about the nature of matter, whether it is continuous or particulate. It means whether it is in the particle form or it is just in a continuous form. We have to perform some experiments which will definitely will bring about an understanding of this matter. Now, you see in this diagram, and it is a very easy experiment which you can do anywhere. We can understand whether the matter is having a continuous form or it is in particular, that means in the form of particle. To understand this, we can do a very simple experiment. You can see in the diagram, we have to take beakers filled with water, half, beakers not fully filled with water, but half. The level of water should be half. Now you can dissolve, either take sugar or salt, and with the help of glass rod you can dissolve it. Now you see what changes will take place in water. Level. Now what happens? What do you think? What will happen in this experiment? When you dissolve sugar in water in a beaker, then can you see the sugar? Where the sugar has gone? You can do the same experiment with the salt. The salt disappears, but the level of the water, whether it increases or it remains the same, that you have to see. In order to answer these questions, we are going to find out the idea that matter is made up of particles. What was there in spoon? So, is it a magic that you were having the crystals of sugar in the spoon and you have put them inside water in a beaker or a glass, and then it disappears, but you find it quite normal. But actually what is happening? Where this salt or sugar, where it is going, that we have to find out. So for that I want to tell you that there are spaces in between all these matter volumes. You are taking the volume of water, so between the different particles or the atoms or the molecules of any substance, there are some spaces. So whatever we are going to dissolve in that, whether a solid or a liquid, it is going to take the spaces which are present inside the particles of matter. So the sugar or the salt occupy these spaces. Let us go to another experiment to know more about it. So for that we are going to take KMnO4 crystals, which is called as potassium permanganate, and it is violet in color. So first one little bit quantity of potassium permanganate we are going to dissolve in, you can say, about some volume of water, and what we will see, there will be a color change. Instantly the whole color of the water will become quite violet, attractive in color, magenta violet, that kind of color, whichever way you perceive it. Now we are going to dilute. How we are going to dilute? We will take 4 or 5 beakers and we will keep water in that, and around 10 ml of this solution, and put it into 90 ml of clear water. Now from this you take out 10 ml of solution and put it into another 90 ml of clear water. Keep diluting the solution like this 5 to 8 times. It is very easy. We are going to dilute it further. So we have kept 4 or 5 beakers. So we have diluted the one in first beaker, and this diluted solution we are taking into the other beaker, and further we are diluting it and putting it in next beaker. So what will have? We can see a color change. You can see that it is very dark because the quantity of KMnO4 is more here. In the second it is lighter, still lighter, and it is very much light. So, now we have to see why this color is becoming lighter. Now, we have to just estimate how small are the particles of matter, like when it is becoming lighter. So, then what is happening inside? We should understand that with every dilution, though the color becomes light, but it is still visible. When there was more quantity, that time also it was visible. We have diluted it so much, still it is visible. So, ultimately what we are going to get? How small and in what state, that we have to see. This experiment shows, that the crystals of potassium permanganate can color a large volume of water, about 1000 liter. So, what we conclude? That there must be millions of tiny particles in the crystal of potassium permanganate, which keep on dividing themselves into smaller and smaller particles. Ultimately, a stage is reached when the particles cannot divide further into smaller particles. The same activity we can do using 2 milliliter of Dettol. Dettol, it has got a distinct smell and it is an antiseptic. So, when there is more quantity of Dettol, then the smell can be detected, in more area, and even if you dilute it further, okay, its intensity will be little bit less, but it will go into as much as space as it is possible. So, from these 2-3 experiments which we have shown you now, the first one, that the sugar or salt, it disappears in water. That means there is a space inside the matter. Second, whether it is in the particle form, and if in the particle form, then how small it is. So, the potassium permanganate crystals, we kept on diluting and diluting. Still it was existing. The color was very light, but it was existing. And now the smell, because the smell comes in the gaseous form, but this thing we will discuss later. So, now we arrive at a conclusion that the matter has got very small, in the end when it keeps on dividing, and it is beyond our imagination.